Hello and welcome to my video for AP US Notes, Chapter 23, Progressive Era, covering the years 1900 to 1917. Now, before we begin, I want to point out that I got a new computer and I'm not sure if this really works, so bear with me for the quality and backlighting. So, the period between 1900 and 1917 is called the Progressive Era because it saw the rise of various movements, both successful and otherwise, in response to the issues of the Gilded Age and the legacy of the Industrial Revolution. Now, much of the Progressive Era can be boiled down to the actions and commitments of these progressives. President Roosevelt, Du Bois, W.E. Du Bois, Eugene Debs, Lafayette, Robert Lafayette, capitalist Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller, Mother Jones, and Carrie Katz. So starting with Roosevelt, he was president from 1901 to 1909. He was considered politically aggressive at the time, largely because he abandoned the post that the presidents had made themselves during the Gilded Age, referring to the legislature, and began to demand from it. He was big on personal relations. He became the first president to host press conferences at the White House. He basically reformed the entire executive branch, and surprisingly, he was not very pro-organization. He was pro-union. There was one instance where he threatened his troops to reopen a mine in, I believe, West Virginia, after the unionists who were trying to break the union threatened to not supply coal to the entire country. Actually, that didn't go over. He also helped break up large conglomerates, trusts, and monopolies, and he was a big promoter of, you can't exactly say environmentalism, but he wanted to use resources that this country had, and which gave him the label of a conservationist. So next is W.E.B. Du Bois. He was an African-American reformer, largely involved in politics. He was one of the founders of the NAGA movement and the NAA, which gave birth to the NAACP, or let's see if I can get this. He worked vigorously for most of his life for reenfranchisement of African Americans. He wanted educational reforms because in many education systems, especially in the South, much more money was spent on white students than blacks. For instance, I believe in South Carolina, 12 times as much money was spent on a white student than a black student. He supported women's rights, although he wasn't the biggest proponent of it. And he was the founder of the political magazine The Crisis, which centered around issues for African Americans and became kind of his way of delivering information. So the next reformer is Eugene Debs. He was a major socialist. He ran 5 times for the presidential election in 1900, 1904, 1908, 1912, and 1920, which he at his height of his power got 1 million votes in 1920, even though he was incarcerated in prison for sedition at the time. He was a huge proponent of workers' rights and was one of the founders of the Industrial Workers of the World, which was formed in response to big monopolies and conglomerates, and basically became a proponent of workers' rights because of events like the Trussell Service Fire in New York. And also because of his socialist stance, he was very much into equality. He supported African American rights, like Dubois. He supported immigrant groups, minorities, the working class, and in some cases became their champion, as in the case of the German and Scandinavian workers in Pennsylvania. Now, Robert Lafayette is an interesting character because at the time he was the governor of Wisconsin and basically turned the state into, I believe the quote is, the laboratory of democracy. He was a huge political reformist. He helped break monopolies that had control of the government. He wanted regulation of state governments, and he was a big proponent of things like the Australian ballot, which allowed for secret voting. I won't spend too much time on these guys since we covered them in previous chapters, but they were important. Capitalists like Carnegie and Rockefeller who were in control of the aforementioned monopolies. These two are probably the most well-known and successful. Carnegie claimed to be support of unions, but his actions were otherwise, like the Pullman strike and several other times where workers were killed, armed, lost jobs. Otherwise, unions were broken. They both followed what is called the Gospel of Wealth, which was actually founded by Carnegie. And because of this inspiration, they donated billions upon billions of dollars to education, public libraries, arts and sciences, which give these guys kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, they were awful employers. They treated workers beyond poorly. They kept workers in kind of a perpetual poverty and had allowed them very few rights and freedoms. But on the other hand, they supported their workers, in the long term. There's one instance of Carnegie, I believe in 1904, creating a pension fund for his former employees. They donated money, massive amounts of money. At the time, it was around 36 million, which now translates to $4.2 billion. Another reformist is Mother Jones. She was a feminist, and because of that, and which is interesting to point out, she was probably pro-prohibition. It doesn't mention anything of this in our book, but it does bring up an interesting point because Mother Jones was an Irish immigrant, and this is what prohibition and immigration looked like. The two reform movements were very closely related. They were both led by nativists, largely by nativists, and they eventually linked immigration with alcohol consumption, and also with African Americans with alcohol consumption and alcoholism because of bigotry, largely. And they associated these immigrants with immoral actions, which also kind of falls into the category of liquor. Which brings up a point from the Jones, since she came to the United States poor, Irish, and 14. Also, interesting thing about Mother Jones is that she was anti-suffrage. She thought that women belonged in the home, taking care of the children, and that they were too emotionally unstable for voting purposes. She, like Debs, was was largely socialist and was a huge proponent of workers' rights, which she especially relied on for women and children. She went on a children's crusade in 1901, basically giving large amount of lectures and press to places of laborers, and she helped that basically helped take children out of factories. So the next one, and the polar opposites of Mother Jones, is Carrie Cat. She was a major suffragette leader, and basically reformed the movement from its old roots to what it became, to what basically paved the way for the 19th Amendment. She became a leader at the head of parades, including the infamous 1913 March 1913 parade, in which on the way to the White House, the women suffragettes and their male constituents, helpers, were attacked by anti-suffragettes in the crowd and had to literally fight their way to the White House. They went on large tours, had public meetings, and, like I said, paved the way for the 19th Amendment. So the juxtaposition of Jones and Cat in my video is definitely not an accident. They can demonstrate the two very different perspectives that these reformers had on the same issue. As you can see here, Cat wanted a females to be politically active. She wanted them to play a role outside the home. She was an active suffragette leader. Also, she was born in Wisconsin, so she was a native-born citizen, and she was a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Compared to Jones, who believed women should stay home, and, like I said before, they should not have the vote. Of course, Jones was an Irish immigrant, which means she's probably Catholic, or had a Catholic upbringing, which puts her at odds with the opinion of Cat. That's just something for everyone to think about for now. As I've copied from the Crash Course History video,